just seems to have this habit of releasing things when I'm at work. So it's kind of unfortunate. So I didn't really get much of a chance to kind of sit down and talk about this like at the same time everybody else did, but I figured, you know, I'm going to get to this now and share whatever thoughts I have about it right now. It's been a while. I've been very busy IRL, but I figured this was pretty exciting content. It definitely looks like what they're introducing here is really, really interesting. There's a lot to talk about, so I'm going to kind of go through it and just kind of share some thoughts as I kind of go through this. I'm not going to read the blog because I'm going to assume it's not really necessary for me to read the blog. I'm just going to kind of talk about what are the things that they're bringing up and just sharing some thoughts kind of off the cuff, off the rip. I have had time to look it over and think about them, so some of these thoughts are going to be a little bit more well formulated, but let's just go through it. So, The Final Dawn, they're releasing, this is part 3 of Varlamore, releasing quite a few different things. They're kind of going through, not necessarily the quest, but just mostly the new gear updates and some details on the new bosses and other things they're going to be coming with this update. So, one of the things they're talking about is this new melee weapon is what they're planning to release. This new melee weapon is going to be, I don't think they say specifically where it's going to come from, unfortunately. I think they say it's new will be untradeable with the ability to repurchase for 75k. I'm guessing it's going to just come from the quest. Now, or it's a reward from the quest. So the way that the weapon works is just, for those of you who are curious, it's kind of staged to be, or talked about being about equivalent to like a dragon scimitar. Actually, what level? How strong is a dragon scimitar? Oh, there's dragon scimitar. Skimmy, whatever. Who cares? The dragon scimitar is 67 slash. Wrong thing to show up. 67 slash. This has got more slash bonus. It's got 8 stab. This has got much better stab. So it's more versatile, but it's got slightly better melee strength. This dragon scimitar has 2 more strength bonus. That's not... Why does the dragon scimitar have a -2 crush bonus? I never just wonder this shit like that. It's just so weird shit like that. Whatever. Anyways, yeah, it's interesting. It's quite good. It's not a bad weapon to get, and considering that you're not gonna have to be doing monkey madness to get it, yeah. The key thing though this weapon offers is not really its stats. It's also got 1 prayer, which is nice, but the main thing it offers is its special attack, which is insanely fucking good as far as I can tell. This special attack just seems really fucking stupidly good for a lot of stuff. So the way it works is perform a single attack that has a 50% increased accuracy, which is, depending on what you're fighting, that's actually like insanely good, because if you're using the slash with like an Avernic defender or something, or like, not, obviously an Avernic is quite for the people that are probably going to be using this, I don't know if this setup, this gear is, this special attack is going to be actually like stronger than just using something else, but it just sounds pretty insane. Like 50% increased accuracy and deals 50% increased damage if it hits, which is, I'm guessing, is that like from what you were planning to hit? Or is that like 50% higher max hit that you could hit? Which is, those are 2 different types of calculations from my understanding. Yeah, those would be 2 different calculations. If the hit is successful, the target is guaranteed to have the burn effect applied to them, dealing an extra 10 damage over 40 cycles. And is anyone ever at all curious about the fact that, like, if you stack this with the Eclipse at Lotto, like, you can do that crazy PK shit with that? This is going to be, I think, pretty interesting for PKing, because I know, like, with the Eclipse at Lotto, you can, like, use the burn effect and use it to, like, get some KO potential. This is just going to be, like, even better for that, which, like, honestly, I don't mind. I like having things that are with burn, but I'm always thinking about the Eclipse at Lotto set spec, so anyways, that's a whole separate thing. It's interesting. So the way it works is it applies 10 damage over 40 cycles, which is 40 ticks, 24 seconds, which would be, what, how much damage per second, basically? 24 divided by, oh, sorry, I'm mistaken, 10 divided by 20. About 0.4160 PS. That's pretty solid. That's about, like, 2/3 of a thrall. It's not bad. It's definitely more important. I think where it's special is the fact that it has the ability to also hit any NPC within 1 tile of the target. I'm kind of curious how this is going to work for things like Slayer. It's interesting. Like, if you think about it in terms of like how much extra damage you're getting off, it's kind of insane. Like, you can get, like, if you think about it in terms of like 1x1 tiles. And this is one thing, like, does this scale off the size of the target? That's a good question I heard one person bring up, which is, like, if you have a 3x3 enemy, does that mean you get the one tile around that 3x3 enemy, so it's like a pretty big area? Or is it like if you hit the southwest, it's like the southwest tile of the monster that you're hitting, and then like, I don't know, that doesn't make any sense. But like, I don't know, something like, I'm just curious how exactly this is going to work. They need to specify this a little. But overall, it's interesting. It seems kind of strong in that sense. I always think that like, you're going to get a max hit, 50% off, and then you're going to also apply an extra 10 damage to them, which is, it's not that bad. That sounds pretty strong, but you know, I'm thinking realistically, is the DDS going to be stronger than this? The DDS just might be stronger than this, because the DDS is kind of insane. Its spec, and is this going to outcompete other weapons? I don't think so, but it is interesting, is all I'm saying. This is definitely an interesting effect. I think I'd have to sit here and do some more calcs to figure out if it's like way too strong, but I don't know. I always get worried with things like burn, like these types of burn effects, because they're actually like very, very good. It's kind of like why Burning Claws are insanely strong. People thought Burning Claws weren't going to be that good, and Burning Claws actually turned out to be, like, in some cases better than D-Claws. So, anyways, whatever. So it's interesting, and that there's a poll question going to be asked about this. So now the next thing that people are excited about that they've talked about is outside the quest, they're going to introduce new content called the Doom of Mocha Hadal, whatever. I can't pronounce it properly. It's interesting. A lot of people have become a lot of the really, really high level players are very excited about this because it's kind of introducing what's known as like an enrage boss, or an enrage boss. I don't know why I'm pronouncing it like in such a weird fucking way. But an enrage boss, which is kind of a concept that existed in RuneScape 3, but I think there's some other MMOs where it exists, and if I'm guessing there is. But anyways, the way that the enrage system works is it's basically a boss that you fight once, and the first time you fight it, it's kind of a weak level. And every time you go into like fight the boss and like set up and gear up to go fight it, it always starts off at level 1, but you progress through it. It's kind of like the boss gets strong, and you like after you beat that boss the first time, you can either get the loot and leave that it drops, or you can choose to fight it a second time, and then but that second time it's going to be a little bit stronger. So, and then you can go again and fight it a third time. It's going to be stronger the third time, and so on. It keeps continuing and getting stronger in strength. For this boss, it seems like it will only go up to 8 levels stronger. They're giving us some more details, it seems like, here from versus when I initially looked at the blog. Anyways, so it seems like this boss, I think from my understanding, it goes up 8 levels at least. I think that's what I read. I'm trying to see if I can find that again. Yeah, there will be 8 delve levels, each increasing in depth. So I don't know if that means like 8 levels. I'm guessing this means 8 total levels. So level 1, level 2, all the way to level 8. I don't think this means level 1 to 9 and 8 additional levels, because otherwise I think they would say that. But each thing kind of increases in difficulty. And as it's increased in difficulty, new things kind of come into the fight. So it gets an increased attack rate, smaller reaction times for special attacks, lingering arena state from previous levels. A lot of people have been kind of comparing this to something equivalent to like re-entry from Fortis Coliseum, which if you don't know what that means, that's like there's an enemy inside the Fortis Coliseum where when they throw a spear in the sky and it comes down. Typically, it just hits the ground and kind of like explodes, but that's it. You can go back onto that tile after that tile has been damaged, has been like hit with the spear. If you have the re-entry modifier enabled when you're in Coliseum, that makes it so that when the spear lands, it leaves a permanent pool of magma that you can't stand on, or you'll just take damage for every tick that you're on it. So people are kind of acquainted to that. That's possible. It could be that there's like something also equivalent to like wardens, where like the terrain is just like there's now just holes in the map and you can't path to the boss. It could be spikes like Muspa, where like you have a spike wherever you touch it, it like automatically pushes you off. There's like so many different ways that this could be implemented. So I'm not trying to limit it to just like re-entry. There's a lot of different ways it could be limited to. This could work. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, or Raxor and Venom, whatever. We'll see. And they said that there's going to be additional mechanics as we go to deeper dev levels. Environmental changes after level 5 result in extra damage effects, which can be avoided. Additional fight mechanics and special attacks. So all really cool things, and it's aimed at people who are combat level 120. Typically, Jagex does not talk about things like at this level bracket, so this is like quite good. I think Perilous Moons was gauged to be level 70, if I'm not mistaken. OSRS News, Perilous Moons. First look at rewards. Let's see if there's any defense requirements. They said, oh, that's 50. That's the rewards. I'm trying to find out what they're gauging. Um, 70? Okay, I'm not gonna sit here all day and like I think it was set to be like level 70 to level like 90. Okay, I'm not gonna spend all my time thinking about this. I got other things to worry about, other things to get along into this blog. But yeah, I think it was like level 70 to level 90 was the combat level they were expecting people to be at, and Perilous Moons is much easier. This seems to be pretty strong. I think they say that like from just a general difficulty standpoint, it's aimed at people who are trying to get their Infernal Cape or have done the Fortis Coliseum, or like in the goal of trying to get the Fortis Coliseum done as well, which is basically means it's up there with like the hardest content that they're trying to introduce, next to like I guess a raid. But I always feel like the Infernal and Fortis Coliseum are actually like practically more mechanically difficult than raids, but that's just my personal opinion. Now, what's the point of all this? There is a series or a shit ton of rewards. There are a shit ton of rewards, and the rewards are all really fucking good. All of them. I think almost all of them. So, the first reward that's kind of coming out is a goated slot for many people, which is known as the Evernic Treads, or the Evernic Treads. These are basically they're just a straight boot upgrade buff for every single style. I think like in every way they're just insanely good. So if you're not sure what they do, they offer increased attack bonus all across the board for all styles, stab, slash, crush, magic, and ranged. They have defensive bonuses for primarily melee, but they also have defensive bonuses and those are 25. Defensive bonuses of 10 for magic, 10 for ranged. They offer a melee strength of 5, so same as Prims. They offer a magic damage percentage of 1%, which is the same as Eternals, but they also offer 1 range strength, which is not that much, but in some cases can make it or break it. It might even be in the range, I think some people were saying, of giving Blowpipe a new max hit, which is massive. Every time you give Blowpipe, you have to remember, because Blowpipe operates at a 2-tick attack speed, which is significantly faster than everything else, every 1 point of damage that thing gets as a max hit is almost equivalent to like, well, barring accuracy and barring like ranged attack style accuracy, it's effectively almost 2.5 times 2.5 max hits that you would get from like a T-bow. It's fucking crazy strong to get a max hit on Blowpipe. So that's very good. But we have been stuck at the same max hit on Blowpipe for quite a while, I guess. There hasn't really been much range strength here that's been available. But this is, yeah. So this is really interesting. A couple thoughts on this. So I think that this is just straight up a flat. I think if I look at Prims, OSRS Primordial Boots. Do they have an attack bonus on them? They do. So the Prims, this is basically just, it's interesting because it's kind of got the same bonuses as like all 3 boots, but it actually is like stronger than like, so like in a way you can think about this as having just like the stats of all 3 boots put together, but it's actually not the stats of all 3 boots to put together, I think. Or maybe it is. Let me look, actually. I don't actually know. OSRS Eternal Boots. These have a bonus of 8 and 5 and 8 defense. You know what? I wonder if it is. So that's 10 defensive bonus. This has got 8 defensive bonus and 5 in the defensive across. No, it doesn't seem like it does. OSRS Pegagian boots. These have shot up in fucking price, by the way. They used to be like 32 mil, and if you look at the real-time prices, they're like going for 39 mil. Everyone's fucking going to the moon right now, these things. I don't think they are. No, they're not the same they're not the same boosts. So it's kind of like taking all the positives from all the gear and adding them onto the same setup, I would say, is what it kind of seems like. With a little bit of extra bonuses. The range strength is definitely something that isn't on anything. But there's a couple things that are in this that are really interesting. So the first thing I want to talk about is, like, in my opinion, these stats, it just seems like if you could decompose these into each of their respective boots, and there is like some overlap in some of the stats and stuff like that, could we not just like buff the stats of all the individual boots up to like what they would almost be like in this setup? So like in the case of Primordials, raise the defense of the Prims up to like 25 flat for across the melee styles, keep the 5 strength bonus, keep the attack bonuses, and leave it as is. For the Eternals, why not? I think Eternals are fine. And then for Pegasions, why not just add that extra range strength bonus onto the Pegasions? if that's the case, like, it just seems like kind of obvious and at this point, like, would anyone be opposed to the Picasians having a +1 range strength? I mean, they're kind of, as it is right now, they're pretty fucking shit boots. They kind of suck ass. Like, in many cases, I just use, like, literally, I think that I would prefer using, like, Blessed D'hide boots or just Devout boots over these anyways. Or, like, Granite boots or something. These are just, or, like, Guardian boots. These are just terrible. But I think adding 1 strength bonus, I mean, they could have some real value there. And then that would still, by the way, make these boots fantastic because you wouldn't feel the need to, like, hold a bunch of different types of boot slots. But there's a bunch of different thoughts I've had about that. That's kind of like the main things I'm thinking. The other thing I'm really concerned about is the magic damage percentage. This 1%, man. Can we talk about this? Like, I said this in my last Ramble kind of thing, or I guess maybe for a couple of them I think I mentioned this maybe. I don't remember. But, the Shadow just needs to be fucking reworked, man. The Shadow is just fucking the entire magic skill. I can make, like, I have been thinking about making a whole video of just talking about how the Shadow just needs to be reworked. Or it's like it's time to talk about the Shadow or some shit to make it more clickbaity. But, it just needs to be changed. Like, the Shadow is just it's just ruining the ability of the magic skill to be, like, decent at all. The magic skill just sucks ass because of exclusive, like, so for those of you that don't know, the way that the Shadow works by multiplying. It's like kind of like Identity as a mega rare, is that it multiplies the magic damage percent by 3 times outside of TOA, and inside TOA it's 4 times. And, like, so that means that if you introduce, like, a piece of gear like this, the Avernic Treads, for the regular, for, like, everywhere else, every other setup except for something with the Shadow, it's a 1% bonus, but with the Shadow it's a 3% bonus. And, like, they might say, well, you're losing out the shield slot, so that's like a big deal. Dude, I think, like, the best thing you can get in the shield slot is what? Like, OSRS, is it a lid sword? Fortified? It's like fucking 5%, man. Or is there something better for a magic offhand? I don't even know. I don't even know what, like, the magic offhands are. Like, from my understanding, it's pretty ass. Like, there's just no good magic offhands. Oh man, what are the... Attach the arcane sigil to it. I'm trying to find anything that's like, what's the arcane spirit shield? Is that percent? I'd have to look up exactly which is like a good. Just looking really. Yeah, I think it's the highest. The only thing that's like lower or higher is the tomes, which really only come out when you're the tomes only come out when you're using, like, elemental spells, like from the standard spellbook, which is pretty rare because elemental weakness is not kind of around the game as much as it probably should be, but that's a whole separate thing to talk about. Anyways, the point is, it's fucking negligible and useless. In many cases, this is doing nothing for your setup. You have to be doing almost like 100 damage just to do anything for this to be, like, even noticeable by itself. And with every other piece of gear you have to, yeah, it's just, the Shadow makes it, like, horrible. I think you could make this whole argument about how, like, equivalent setups for both magic and melee, like, time-wise to acquire, the melee setup is just completely out DPSing, and, like, even for the range setup, it's just completely dwarfing the magic setup. You can even make magic, like, the weakest of all the styles when it gets to late game. I'm sorry, I'm digressing. I can go into that at another point. I have a lot of thoughts about the magic rebalance and what they could do to improve it. I think overall it's been pretty bad, and it's just primarily the Shadow's fault. Anyways, okay, that's done. Let's go talk about something else now. Let's talk about the other things that they're releasing. So the boots, overall, big dub. Boss, pretty cool. Other weapon, pretty solid. Now, a couple things they're also thinking about introducing. They're thinking about introducing also the Eldritch Veil, which is a, another thing that I want to bring up, sorry, I'm kind of going back and forth. They are using this, it's going to kind of work like an Avernic hilt that you get from, what's it called? Like, TOB? So you'll put it onto the 3 boots and this, and you'll get the new boot set. And it's pretty sick, so pretty solid. Eldritch Veil, Demonic Mark. I think this is going to be the same thing. It's a consumable item for the Demonic Mark that you can be used on your Imbued God Capes. I think also they did say that all these items are going to be tradable. Everything is going to be tradable, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, this is going to go onto your Mage Cape and increase the damage. Your Mage Cape is going to make your magic Imbued God Cape do a little bit more magic accuracy. It's going to get 1% more extra magic damage bonus, but -2 prayer, which is, I'm kind of iffy on if I care about that. I don't really care that much about the -2 prayer bonus. It's like not that big of a deal, but it's kind of you know. But it does give you an extra 1% magic damage bonus. Additionally, this is the type of thing where I'm kind of thinking to myself, who cares? 1% is just not that big of a deal. In the case of the Shadow, this is an extra 3% damage boost outside of TOA. It's an extra 4% damage boost inside TOA, which is fucking crazy good for the Shadow, because now you're going from something being basically cares to now being like an extra 1 to 2 max hits in some cases. So that's pretty fucking crazy for the Shadow. Big dub for the Shadow again. Now, it's overall, I don't have a problem. I think this is fine. This is kind of cool. But these two are going to drop from the boss. There's also going to be another boss that comes from another drop that comes to the boss, which is it's pretty interesting. It's very interesting. There's a couple stats about this. I don't think people have pointed out some of the stats about this thing, which is really, really wacky. So the first thing it has 75% strength bonus, which is not that great. I think it's, what's the strength of the whip? I think the whip is 82, something like that. 82. I think this is the strength of like the Zam. Yeah, it is 82. So this is the strength of like the Zami Hasta. It's also going to be two-handed, so you can't use a defender, which is kind of weird. So it's pretty bad there, but it's got decent crush bonus and decent stab bonus, which is okay. But it's kind of weaker than the Dulmak Heedles. So it's kind of like, where the fuck does this sit in? What it does is a couple weird things. So it's got these other unique effects to it. The first thing it does is it has a hits twice, which has got some unique effects. It's going to be, it's not going to be best at slot. At the only thing that like really benefits from having a double hit is the Naguas and in like the Varlamore dungeons and the Blue Moon. So it's not that big of a deal, but like whatever. The big thing that it introduces, though, it has this interesting effect where it resets the player's attack delay if they land a killing blow on a demon-type enemy. So that's interesting, primarily in areas where you're going to be like last-hitting demons. It's going to allow you to instantly reset the hit and then like go on and kill something else. So it's good from an DPS uptime thing. Where that might be interesting is in like some certain, I guess, Slayer areas. I think realistically, why they have that effect is it's probably going to be interesting towards some feature of the Delve boss mechanic. So it's kind of interesting there. That's kind of a cool thing. I guess it's gonna be interesting there. It also has 25% Demon Bane, which is like, cares? It's not that big of a deal. It's like okay. And then 25%. Now it has a couple other features which is interesting. It has 25% Demon Ward, and this is like a defensive protection you're gonna get. I guess you also have It's also, they say it also stacks with Ward of Arceus. I didn't know Word of Arceus protects you from demons. Word of does it? The Ward of Arceus, yeah, I guess it protects you from demonic creatures. I had no idea this was the case. How long does this shit last for? Shit, man, I might be using this against fucking Sire coming up soon here. You know what? I might be using this shit for Sire. I didn't even know about this. Okay, cool. Nice. It's interesting. I don't think it's like that incredible. The key thing about this weapon, though, and they said that this is a weapon that's meant to, it's designed to fill the Demon Bane Crush gap, which is like, what gap is this? Nobody. I straight up, I read this, and I remember when I was reading this, I was like, did they think that Fasani's Nightmare was like was a demon? And like, this is meant to like be used against Fasani's or something? But like, they just thought it was? Because I've made that mistake sometimes thinking Fasani was like a demon, but it's not. So, yeah, but that's a whole separate thing. Anyways, my whole point on all this is, yeah, Fasani isn't a demon. Yeah, I didn't know what the fuck the point. This is like not really a gap anybody gives a shit about. It's probably going to be used in very unique circumstances. But there is a feature about this that I saw that I didn't really see anybody talk about, which is it's got a massive fucking defense bonus. Like, this thing has got a huge defense bonus. Like, it's got 65 defense across all the melee things. It's got minus 10 for magic, boohoo, but 75 range defense? Like, what the fuck is like the the dragon fire shield like defense for ranged? Charged? It's like better than the dragon fire shield for range defense. That's just fucking nuts to me. Like, it's very strong. Like, my thought when I saw this was like, holy shit, this is actually like a pretty... You can wield this while you're running and like you have like a tanky ass shield. I think that this is going to be a really interesting piece of gear. I think it's going to be best at slot at Blue Moon because of the defensive bonus. But like, in some situations, it's going to be like pretty solid, I think, actually. No one really talked about that fact, and I think that's finally when anyone really noticed it. It's not like the biggest thing in the world, but it's a pretty hefty chunk. Like, that's going to be useful in some areas that no one's really thinking about. That's going to protect you from some damage in some cases. So I don't think it should be like 100% slept on. They're not that great, like, for sure, but there's something interesting here. I do wonder if this is the start of them experimenting with adding defense to gear to make it be like, we're not going to introduce high melee strength options, but we're going to try to fill this gap of introducing really defensive gear so that players who are like maybe less confident in their mechanical skills and they're not even really interested in maximizing their kill time, they're just focusing on trying to get a completion. We can introduce as like a really good defensive gear, which just increases their survivability. I would be in favor of that as like a potential reward space to explore. I think it's a really cool idea to explore if that's the case. I don't know if that's the case. I could be heavily mind reading, but I think there is a lot of opportunity to explore the defensive space as a means to kind of introduce. I mean, yes, it's not going to be the most like, you're not going to see the hyper uber sweat lords going for this, but if your goal is just like, I'm a player that's not very good at the game and I just want to like get further in content, I'm not concerned about getting the maximum number of kills per hour, but just trying to get further so I can learn it, this would be a cool thing to introduce. So I wonder if there's something like that to this. If not, I don't want to read too much into this. It's just like something I thought was pretty interesting. So cool. Next things are one other thing. Now that we're at the end of the boss fights, the boss is pretty cool. One thing I just realized I forgot to talk about as well with the boss. Another thing they mentioned in this is that for the drops and loot system, so the Enraged boss system I think is kind of largely inspired from RuneScape 3, from bosses like Glacior, Archglacior, Telos. I think that's like the two main ones I know. Is there like Virago, if I'm not mistaken? But these are Enraged bosses. It's a mechanic that's pretty common, I think, across RuneScape 3, but I'm not very familiar with RuneScape 3. So the way that this mechanic works, talked about, but the big problem with the mechanic, though, as you saw in people who were fighting those other played in RuneScape 3, was that you could get people got to the point where they could get to the bosses to like insanely high levels of Enrage, and what the boss was doing is, rather than just like, it was increasing the chance of you getting a rare, but it was also increasing the common loot you were getting. So as a consequence, you were just seeing like bosses release, like you could just see these just hilarious pictures. RS3 Glacior max Enrage drops. You could just see like some of the shit it was dropping. I'm seeing if I'm trying to get a picture of it. Is there like an image of this shit? We're like posting a picture. No, it's not very interesting. Yeah, this was like, is this what I was talking about? You see like there's like some absolutely utterly insane ones that was like people posting a picture and it was like 2,700 crystal keys, some just absurd shit that you're just looking at, and your mind is like, I'm just thinking to myself, like, who is gonna need this? Who wants this? Like, there's just no need for this shit. Like, 2,700 crystal keys, you will never go through all those. No one will sit at a fucking crystal chest and do that. It was literally not worth your money. It's just like shit like that. It's just absurdly stupid stuff like that. But it's fucking crazy what that whole if you ask. But what they did to address that, I'm digressing. What they did to address that with regards to this boss is that they made it so that for this boss, the common loot does not scale at all. What's going to scale is going to be, I think at least, it's not going to scale as you do more and more depths. I'm sure it's going to get better for each different layer you get down to. I think it should up to level 8, but it will not get better as you go further and further into the fight. What's going to benefit you is you're going to get more, you're going to get a, what exactly did they say specifically? Oh, and there's one more thing I need to talk about after this as well that I forgot to talk about. Each increase in difficulty and loot potential. You can keep repeating the blah, blah, blah. They say specifically... Yeah, it is worth noting that while the chance of snagging reports increases as you progress, the quantities of basic loot do not. Okay, so that means that what ends up happening is that, okay, yes, so you will get the same level of common loot as everybody else has if you just go to like the first level, but you won't get any chances of getting, you won't get much higher chances of getting uniques. Going further is where you get the chance of getting higher levels of uniques. And that was kind of the lesson everybody talked about from like Glacier, which was like, it was fucking ludicrous with how much shit was printing out. And like what we needed was really just, the basic loot can be the same, but like what really needs to happen is that the higher level loot, the rares are more common. So, cool. The final thing that we're going to introduce. So this boss is introducing a lot of different things. It's introducing boots, a new weapon. It's introducing a cape upgrade for mage. All good shit. The Diabolical Aegis, I'm kind of in favor of it as of right now, just because of the whole defensive stuff. I think it's kind of interesting, some effects, but it's kind of weird. The last thing they were introducing was a Thrall upgrade. Now, a lot of people, from my understanding, were in favor of the Thrall upgrade. I'm very mixed on the Thrall upgrade. A lot of people were kind of like, I was kind of surprised with how much people were kind of like excited for a Thrall upgrade. I am like actually very anti-Thrall upgrade right now. I could be convinced off this. My main point for this is that Thralls are already insanely fucking strong. Like, insanely fucking good. I do not think there needs to be much done to make them stronger. Like, just to kind of put it into perspective, I think I did some, like, raw calcs. Like, if you are doing, depending on what you're doing, it's like a massive DPS boost, depending on what you're doing. Like, I think if you're doing a, if you're using, like, a whip or something, like 40s, let's just make it simply of 100% accuracy, and you increase this by 2. So let's your hidden bite whip that, your average hit is going to be somewhere between, it's going to be hard to calculate, but let's just approximate it's an equal amount from 1 to 24, or 1 to 40, just make it simple. So your average hit's going to be the midpoint between 40 and 1 divided by 2, so it's going to be like 20.5, I think, right? Yeah, it's going to be 20.5, sorry. 40 plus 1 divided by 2, 25, right? So your average hit, you're going to divide this by 2.4, about 8.5 DPS. This is like perfectly accurate. If you increase your max hit to 42, 1 divided by 3, or sorry, 3 divided by 2. So this is going to be the average. This is the average. If you put like a Berserker Ring eye on, you get 2 extra max hits, so you go from 40 to 42. So your average hit's going from 20.5 to 21.5 divided by 2.4. I think from just this is about the equivalent, I think, of adding, I think the Berserker Ring is, and so this is about 8.96 minus 8.54, 0.96 minus 54. So adding a Berserker Ring eye to a whip is about a 0.42 DPS increase, I believe. This is under ideal circumstances. So, and I think Thralls, just to give you, so that's like, 2 max hits extra. Thralls are, what do? They do 0 to 3, so they hit an average of 1.5, right? Because the way that Thralls work is 100% accuracy, but they roll 0, 1, 2, and then 3, so that they do an average of 1.5 in between the 1 and 2. And they do it every 2.4 seconds, which is 4 ticks? Yeah, 4 ticks. That's higher than that. So it's almost like a 2 to 3 max hit increase on average. It's fucking nuts. And that's, by the way, that amount is like regardless of the level of accuracy or defense on the monster. It's fucking, Thralls are insanely good. And then it's not just that, guys, that DPS, but it's that DPS which in context, it's an insane amount of DPS, number 1. Number 2, it lasts for a minute. which is insanely good. So you're getting an extra like 1.5 damage times, is it 100 ticks? I think that's how long do thralls last, or is it OSRS thrall? How long do thralls last? It's basically your magic level. If you have 99 magic, they last for a minute. With Grandmaster, they last for 2 minutes, which is... They shouldn't be this good with combat achievements, but that's a separate thing, by the way. So 59.4 seconds. So 59.4 seconds. How many ticks is that? 59.4 divided by 6. It's about 99 ticks, right? Divided by every 4 ticks. So they attack 24, 25 times. Let's just say they have to attack 120 times. 1.5. So without Grandmaster's combat achievements, they're doing 36 damage per click. In the case of here, you're doing 188.8 divided by 0.6. It's going to be 198, and then divided by 4 ticks, 49 times 1.5, whatever. They're doing 74 damage per click. They're fucking... They go from doing like little to like insane. They do like insane damage. 36 damage per click. Just a single click is all you have to do, and you get 36 free damage. People might be like, that's not that much damage. It's like, I get it in one perspective. That's like, that's not even like, that's like 1 to 2 hits. Guys, you are having to do nothing to increase your DPS by an insane amount. But that's not even really the part I'm really that concerned with. The part I'm concerned with is more so, think about the other spellbooks. Like, what reason do you have to do anything else except for use the RCS spellbook when you can? I'm always using the RCS spellbook whenever I fucking can. I don't know. It's probably a hell. I'm not like that like strongly set on this, but like in my mind, thralls are like fine. They're really, really good already. We have no real reason to increase them in their DPS. Some people have now. I'm in favor though. I think it's okay to maybe increase their damage if you bring in like a consumable of some form. That's what they want to make this as, some form of a consumable. They want to make it go into your ammo slot. There's been people kind of complaining about that, and this has kind of stirred up some controversy about bringing out the complaints about how Dishonest Quiver still isn't working. That's a whole separate thing, and yes, that probably should be fixed. I agree, but in my mind, I think the big concern is more so around. In my mind, it's taking up the ammo slot, and you could just put this inside the fucking inventory. I don't think there's an issue with putting this inside the inventory. Some people have argued that you should be allowed to like maybe like allow us to get rid of the like Book of the Dead to summon thralls as like a permanent upgrade. I wouldn't be against that as like a thing you could maybe unlock in this. That'd be pretty cool. But I think it'd be nice to have. I think it's okay to have some sort of thrall upgrade. Now, what they were originally proposing, it seems like people are kind of. This might not work out the way it's going to work out. So the thought that they had was something like when the thrall despawns, it's going to travel back through the air towards you in a straight line and deal a small amount of damage to enemies caught in the path. And they said it was based off the axe mechanics during Curse of Rob. I haven't tried this yet. This is actually a pretty cool mechanic from a certain level. Like this is from a mechanical standpoint, this is in a gameplay standpoint, it does bring in a new element of skill that we really haven't seen much in the game, which is we have seen positioning, but this is something that's going to introduce this mechanic to areas where it doesn't traditionally get seen at, which might be interesting. The only downside of this is that it just might not work in all areas, which part of me thinks that that's not really a bad thing. Like, it doesn't have to work everywhere. That's okay. It's fine if it doesn't work everywhere. But part of me also thinks that some players are going to get kind of annoyed at that. So I don't think it's that bad. I think as what they're proposing is interesting. It just depends how it works. I think it works. I think that it shouldn't be like in a single one-tile line. It should probably be a 3-tile wide line as it swings back and flies through enemies. That way, you can kind of position yourself in such a way that it will hit enemies that are kind of like in static locations, like think like Duke Succulus, or think like Olm Melee Hand. There might be a way to make this work. The other downside people were bringing up is that the fact is that when thralls, if you have Grandmaster CAs, it takes longer for them to despawn. So does that mean that you are not going to get this extra damage boost that comes if you have Grandmaster CAs? Some people have talked about, well, maybe we just make it like it happens after a certain amount of time, like 30 seconds. Then I heard some complaints about like, well, what if the boss dies in less than 30 seconds? And my answer to that is eat shit, bozo. Who fucking cares? But then it just won't be used on those bosses. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I don't know. It's definitely an interesting mechanic, and I would like to see it potentially figured out, because I think it is a really cool area of skill that can be expressed. I think if that isn't what we're going to do, there's 2 other options that can be considered, I think, that are pretty reasonable. One is an option that is just to increase the damage. I've heard different ideas. One idea I've heard people say is get rid of the 0 and just introduce it like the way that all melee is, or all current attacks are done, which is that like now when you roll a accurate hit, it rolls 1, 1, and then 2, 3, 4, all the way up to your max hit. You could do something like that. That would increase the DPS to be what, 2 plus, this is 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3, you divide by 4, so it increases it to 1.75 damage per second, 1.75 damage on average, and that wouldn't be too bad. That's one option available. I think I wouldn't be against this. This is like almost equivalent to getting a plus 3 max hit to in some cases. It's not that big of a deal. I think I'd be in favor of that as an option. The other option, and also the benefit of it, would make it so that when you're at Ulm, and you're doing Mage Hand, you would never have to do the run across the room thing. So it would make Mage Hand a little bit easier to learn. So it's not a bad idea. The other thing I think that they could do is, this is like, it's not like really a specific suggestion, but more like a general class of suggestions, is to do something where you increase the APMs available to you. You can increase the number of APMs, and then it would cause you to do a little bit more damage with the mob. One idea I had was that maybe what you do is you have this consumable in your inventory, you summon a thrall as normal, but after a certain activation time, like let's say 30 seconds, you can use one of these consumables. It's a stackable or something. You click on it in your inventory, and then you maybe quickly click a thrall. Maybe you click the thrall button again as a spell, and it will like detonate the thrall. And what the thrall will do is it will basically like terminate early, but do a hit for a roll somewhere between. It'll be like a guaranteed hit or something, somewhere between like 1 to like maybe 7 or 8 or some shit like that, 1 to 8 or something. And you might think that that's not very good, but then you can like just resummon a thrall again. So you can constantly maintain DPS uptime, but the advantage of this is that like it's another mechanic you can use at certain points to guarantee a hit, but also it also, if you're attentive to it, will increase your DPS output. I think it doesn't sound that unreasonable. Every 30 seconds you can activate this thing, and like you can so that way it's available to everybody. It's not available to just Grandmasters. You're not missing out a ton. It's only adding a tiny amount of extra DPS, but it has unique niche cases in some situations. So that was like an idea I had. It doesn't have to be used. I'm sure many people are going to have much better ideas than that one. I haven't thought about this that long. But yeah, I'm pretty much in favor of anything. I do think that like the mechanic of them flying back to you would be somewhat interesting, or doing something that would require you to increase the APM in order to just get more skill expression available to you. That would also be cool. Even just a flat boost to thralls would be fine too. Anything would be okay. I'm in favor of any sort of change with this. So anyways, rambling quite a long time about this stuff, about 40 something minutes, holy shit. Let's talk about other stuff that they're going to be introducing. So the last thing they introduced inside this blog was going to be a new Slayer dungeon, which was going to exist in the Custodia Pass. So this is going to be a new area that's kind of being released. And they're introducing a new enemy called the Custodia Stalker, which is this kind of really freaky looking thing. It's pretty cool. Like I like the general model. I think it's a cool model. It's a very, very cool model, well designed. But they're going to be, I think they're featured at different Slayer levels. It's when you can kill them. You can kill a juvenile, mature, and an elder. And they said that each type will have a low mid defense teamed with a heftier HP pool to rock and bash out your Slayer task with whatever preferred kit might be. We're planning to also add some elemental weaknesses. Cool, that's nice. I like adding more elemental weaknesses across the game. And now, what they want to do is they want to add They don't have the exact stats yet for them, which is fine, but they want to add a new reward that they're thinking of dropping. I'm assuming that basically it's going to be a new reward that's going to be dropped by all of them. It's probably going to be at a higher rate as you get to the elders, and they're just going to have better loot. 76 for elders is kind of the same level as gargoyles, so we're thinking something like pretty decent money per hour per se, maybe we'll see what they drop. But they're dropping this antler guard. Now the antler guard is a very unique item, very interesting. It's set up to be so that it's kind of in between a Dragon Defender and Odium Lord. It's got attack stats for all styles, for stab slash crush, and it's also got positive for magic and range. It's got +5 melee strength bonus, which I think is the same amount as a rune defender, if I'm not mistaken. So let me double check that. Oh my god, rune. Which is a rune defender? Yep, the same as a rune defender. Less attack bonus than a rune defender. Less defense bonus for sure. But it also features a +2 range strength, which is very, very interesting. I think that would make it OSRS range strength. I don't know if there's any offhands besides the Odium Ward that feature range strength bonus in the offhand, which is kind of wacky, if I am not mistaken. Let me check quick. Let me check quickly here. Oh, we don't. Yeah, the weakest offhand range weapon that gives you a range strength bonus is the Odium Warden. It's +4. So this would be the weakest offhand range strength bonus, so it would give you +2. You could probably use this with, like, I guess knives, dragon knives or something, which it might increase the DPS in some unique niche situations. Yeah, the other thing it offers much lower defense, -25 defense across the board, which is quite brutal for the stats. I don't even know why it's this low. I think the logic behind this is it's definitely more for peer. It also, by the way, the key thing as well about it is it doesn't have a defensive level. Oh, sorry, this also has a +4 prayer bonus, by the way. I didn't say that, but it has earlier. But it has no defensive bonus. So I think the main thing people have been talking about is this is meant for peers, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's going to probably be the least likely to pass, just because people fucking hate peers ragging them in the wildy. We'll see. It's very interesting. I definitely think this is a very interesting item. I do actually quite like this as an item. I think it's pretty interesting. I think the defense is a little bit harsh. It's probably about negative 15 or something, or -10. But it is interesting. I do like adding these kind of like weaker things. It's not even going to be like that used, but it's just like, why not have it, you know? So I'm in favor of it. So far, I'm in favor of it. Now, talked for quite a while. I've kind of gone and talked quite fast at some points and speeded through other points. I kind of wanted to take a moment to look through some of the Reddit and I just see what people's different opinions were about this. Okay, I wanted to look a little bit about this and see what people thought about this update. Just to kind of get some ideas about Oh, that's interesting. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I want to see what people thought about this new update to kind of see some different opinions and takes were, just kind of respond to them. Just get some extra stuff for like the next like 10 minutes or so. I remember when I saw it and I clicked on this, the first comment I saw was like just someone just trashing the shit out of it. It was this guy. It was this guy, I think. I saw this, and I was like, this is very interesting. This is the top comment. But the problem with all comments is that comments are now filtered for you in Reddit, which is really, really cringe. I don't like that comments are filtered. They don't talk about this fact, but I guarantee you, like, Reddit in some cases might not be as bad as other places, but like, yeah, see, it's doing like QA. I don't know why it's doing this. Like, I want to just see, like, what are the best comments? Like, what are the top comments? I want to know what the most popular ones people have are. Okay, so when affected, thralls despawn. Despawn, their spirit will travel back in the air towards you. Mechanics like this work well in a standalone quest encounter or a single boss. How ubiquitous thralls are, I expect will get really old when you're doing it everywhere. See, that's the part this is why I'm so scared about stuff, is with how ubiquitous thralls are. That's kind of the thing I'm concerned about. Like, I don't like how ubiquitous thralls are as a feature into the game. I don't like having to summon them everywhere. I think they're interesting to some degree, and they have some unique. They should have, I feel like, niche utility in some cases. But like, the fact that they're just so good everywhere that like I just consider using them all the fucking time I can. I just don't like that as a feature. I just think it's kind of just like a thing about this game I don't like that much. But so I'm kind of worried about making them stronger. But maybe if the consumable is very expensive, it just becomes less likely. I mean, we'll see. I'm not doing a search for thrall boomerangs. That's true. I can be sympathetic people not liking this mechanic so much. I'm not going to read anything below first comments off the main chain because that's cringe. It also just sounds conceptually terrible in my opinion. cast a thrall. It doesn't sound that bad. I do think in some circumstances this could be very interesting. There are things I think people did point out as well that I'm just remembering now from some of the videos I watched. People talk about how you kind of can't really control where thralls spawn, and it's not going to be useful everywhere. But like, guys, why does it have to be useful everywhere? Is that like, that's kind of like my opinion about this. Like, it doesn't have to be useful everywhere. This can be a thing that we only use in some cases. That's fine with me. It doesn't have to be this ubiquitous thing that's used everywhere. We're not forced for that to be the case, you know? So don't forget that when you're making a decision. And secondly, it isn't like it doesn't have to be like it travels in a one-dimensional line. There are some cases where I think this might be somewhat interesting. I'm thinking like, I know not everybody plays everywhere, but like an example would be like Grotesque Guardians, for instance. That's one possibility I can imagine it being used. Probably can't really use it at Zulrah. Probably use it like Kalphite Queen, some of the like the smaller bosses. It would actually make some of the smaller bosses a little bit more fun, in my opinion. I don't think it's terrible. It's maybe not the best and could be reworked, but there's some things about that I kind of like. I also like this idea of like, when you want to go in first boss speedrun records where this is possible. We're now going to summon a thrall until it's about to expire before starting the fight for an extra burst of damage. I mean, that's fine, but like my thought is like, okay. Maybe I'm a bit unsympathetic, but my take is like, yeah, bro, who fucking cares? This is like, we're talking about people who are doing boss speedrun attempts. Just who fucking cares? Like, this is like the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. This is like not that many people. I don't give a shit about this. I know that is a bit selfish though to be thinking. If we can introduce, if somebody can introduce a decision that would move away from this, be more reasonable and better, I'm so much better. I'm not a huge fan of this. I think it's a cool idea if we can get it to work. But there is a lot of things I can understand why it would make it more difficult to get it to work. And so I'm not going to sit here and demand it's the only way shit can work for me. I'm not huge on this. It doesn't have to be done this way. But it's a cool idea. If we could get it to work, it would be interesting. But in my opinion, or maybe there's other ways to activate it, it doesn't have to be done the way that it's thought of. The key thing about it is the idea of having to use your positioning to manipulate where the thrall is going to come back to get extra damage. That's a cool idea in concept. How exactly that's going to work, how exactly they're going to make that work, that's got to be figured out and ironed out, obviously. But again, at the end of the day, if people don't like it, fine. I'm not like going to sit here and die. But can we add another reward for completing this quest / boss? Is the ability to summon thralls without the Book of the Dead instead of this weird buff that I can't see being used at all due to its weird / has to be equipped. Sure, I think this is fine. This would be a cool thing for the book, but I do like having it consumable. Someone said, I think I saw somewhere online, that having a consumable, I think it was No Monkey, that having a consumable that can be used would be the problem is if you have a consumable, you would just replace the Book of the Dead. It wouldn't make any sense to use, but so having a consumable, I think we should have a buff for the thralls, if anything. Well, actually, sorry. I'm somewhat okay with a buff with the thralls, but it has to be a consumable, which is what it is. But number two, it shouldn't be a very big buff. It has to be very concerned. It has to be like something that would almost sound underpowered, but when you do the math, you just realize, actually, no, this is actually a very good buff. But like, it doesn't seem like it. It's just hard because it's not going to feel like very impactful, but I'm kind of in favor of the idea of removing the 0, making it always guarantee hits, but we'll see. I think using it without that should be another quest reward. I can be in favor of this idea of it getting rid of the quest reward. As a quest reward, you also don't have to use the Book of the Dead. That'd be kind of a cool idea, but I kind of just I worry on one degree. It's like, should we just lean into thralls as just like a feature of the game? Because it just feels like the way thralls are implemented, it's just going to be like, we're going to have to bring thralls everywhere in the game going forward. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. I just don't like thralls that much as a mechanic. I don't feel like Demon Crush weapon niche needs to be filled. We don't need a higher DPS on Surpsire since we need better generalist crush weapons. Which the gap between Sang Shadow is the largest in the game. Big to be filled. The issue is actually not the difference between the Sang and the Shadow. The issue is just the Shadow, and all magic just fucking sucks balls. All magic is just terrible. Even equivalent Trident weapons to other styles is like almost 10 max hits lower than some of the other weapons in the game. It's fucking crazy. Level 99 magic with the Trident of the Swamp is a 32 max hit without augury and without gear on to boost it. It's fucking terrible. Whip is like 40 something, so it's almost like 7 hits higher, 8 hits higher for a weapon that is at a Slayer level 3 or 2 levels lower. It's fucking stupid. And that's not with the Defender or all the other gear that you can put in. It's easy to acquire and is much better. It's stupid. The issue is the Shadow. The issue is not this other stuff. We could say let's not change the Shadow, but I think the problem is the Shadow is holding back everything. It's preventing everything from working in Magic. They just need to rip out this Band-Aid off now rather than later. It's going to be worse the longer they wait and the more gear they introduce. And also, I do agree. I don't really care about this. I don't. They didn't talk about the defensive bonus on the weapon, but I think that is the coolest part about it. The coolest part about the weapon is the defensive bonus. That's the part in my mind that I am the most excited about on this weapon. Is that it's a very strong weapon with a high defense bonus. What is the damage of the Din's Bulwark? What is the strength bonus on Din's Bulwark? I'm just kind of curious. So Din's Bulwark is quite ass. It gets extra strength bonus based off your defensive bonus, which is interesting. I guess there was kind of like a chart that showed this. Can I like just plug this in? No, I can't plug it in very easily. Yeah, Din's Bulwark the Dinny B is a pretty interesting weapon that I actually think is pretty cool. It's not even that slow too, which is kind of wild to me. It's actually like a very good piece of gear. It's very interesting to me. I'm kind of digressing. I think it's an interesting weapon, the defensive bonus on it. No one's really talking about that fact, but I think it's an interesting thing to think about. I do agree, though. I think in general it should just be a generalist crush weapon with no Demon Bane and just really high defense. I think there's something interesting there for sure. Yeah. And we don't need new Demon Bane because like the Demon Bane weapons we have are already very fucking good. So the Thrall buff just seems very odd. First off, Thrall's kind of wander, but meaning I'll have to micromanage it and make sure I'm moving around the boss to keep on the other side. More importantly, this seems like a nerf to people who've already done the combat achievements who got longer Thralls if they're a lot of DPS. Yeah, I agree with this. This is a problem. This needs to be fixed. We gotta figure something else. I think that, and this is why people are making these comments. Please add. So this is I'm confused. I thought I just filtered it by most popular. Why am I getting ones that are like less popular up? Maybe they're popular earlier. Sorry. Just add Huasca seed drop from other sources in Varlamore, mainly the boss. This is just a silly comment. Nobody cares. I'm not saying make feel strong. They're already free DPS. It feels like they got strong. But it feels like if they get strong enough, then also have to start to be balanced around having a thrall and making them straight up requirement to have. I think this is kind of pretty much my opinion. I agree. We already have instances of having to balance mechanics or XP rates around the sweatiest min max. Well, I hate to start making story. Yeah, this is kind of how I feel. They're just not very fun. So I mean, this is pretty much everybody else thinks. This is kind of my general opinion of. I think that's probably a bit of a pretty insane take, but whatever. So everyone's complaining about. It seems like there's a lot of complaints about the Thrall rewards. This guy is writing a fucking essay, bro. What are you writing? Sorry, 1 second. Mental illness. This is a mental illness check. This guy's name is Unemployed Dog. He only has 1 post. Holy shit, bro. Actually, 1 post. Sorry, I'm an idiot. These are comments, not posts. Fight tactics. Mothering Christ. Oh shit. This guy's writing fucking essays. Sorry, ignore this. I shouldn't be shaming somebody. I just realized I have to probably cut that out. Fuck me. Anyways, my bad. I'm literally shaming a man online. Okay. The Thrall Award is a mess. I don't think anybody wants that versus the CA issue. The guy said, what do you say? I'm pretty okay with the Quest Award, but it just looks like it's like a little better D-Mace. Very similar stat line. But for the spec for the D-Mace, 20% accurate, blah, blah. Like, there's ideas they could have considered besides releasing strong versus the same weapon that costs more to spec. It's boring. I disagree with this. I think it adds. There's probably some interesting areas we can use it. Boot upgrade is okay. I'm not a fan of end-all, do-all items. People seem to hate boot swaps or whatever. Okay. Method upgrade needs a rework. It's odd. Mage Keep seems gimped for no reason. It's fine. I wonder. Antler Wand seems cool though, but it's doing too much PVM. No one's ever going to use it over Defender. There's some pure accounts, and I think that I do agree. I feel like there's very little reason to use this weapon. I think it's exclusively a pure weapon, which is fine. I don't have a problem with this. A pure weapon. I think some of the ideas are really cool. Some of them aren't great, but I think the boss is the most exciting part. Anyways, it's been long. We're getting to about an hour here. This is kind of getting to the point where I think I should probably be shutting it off and get into other stuff. I kind of also want to play the game. I've just been fucking fishing bigger deals right now. So I'm going to wrap it up here. That's kind of just my general thoughts about it. Overall, I think that this update is, this set of updates is pretty interesting. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for the new boss. So the rewards are solid. Good places to make money. They're more endgame rewards, but you know, that's fine. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all this. I think it's fine. I think this is going to be good. So I'm excited for it. I'm also interested for the quest. I do like the quests. So just like, there's going to be other stuff to explore there too. So yeah, it's good. I'm happy so far. Anyways, that's it for me. Hopefully you guys will get to see me around a little bit more videos now that I have some more free time. Okay, bye-bye.